Scott, how you doing today?
Good. I'm in the middle of the field here at the Ford Center at the Star in Frisco, and here and turning around, you can see people getting selfies with the football helmets and whatnot. And
There it
I don't know if
is.
you can see all this from. It's
Yeah.
better than looking at me, but there's
Well, let's not say that.
yeah. So they're getting ready to have breakout sessions here back here with some of the players and coaches. All the coaches come up to the podium and they say their 2 cents worth, and then they bring them back here, and there's some repetitive questions and all that. But you see the players come out in their uniforms, and then they dress them up, and it's a big dog and pony show. And by God, there's the West Virginia Mountaineer right there, and he's carrying a rifle. So I'm going to listen to him if he gets near me.
There you go. Well, thanks for giving us some ambiance there, Scott. I did 7 of those straight years at the SEC and the last 2 at the Big Ten. So yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. You just, you got to weed through all the coach speak and the player speak to get to something somewhat valuable. So I want to
Yeah,
hit you
right.
from all angles here. Let's go big picture. Let's start with the Big 12. Brett Yormark spoke yesterday, and of course, everybody's focused on the college football playoff format, and he seems to be digging in with this 5+11. Where do you stand on what would be best for the Big 12 and where he stands?
I agree with Brett Yormark because the guy's kind of had a minus touch in a way with everything that he's done, and he's gotten schools like Cincinnati some big money. The Bearcats are a full share member of the Big 12 now, so that means 37 to 42 million of revenue. Whereas when they were in the AAC, it was maybe 7 million tops, and they were partial shares for the first couple of years here in the Big 12 at let's say 18 or so. So it's worked for Cincinnati. He did a great TV deal. I think he's innovative. He might be out there to some, but why not in this day and age when it's all about money? And he has some answers. He's willing to think out of the box and try some things. They had a WWE wrestler, Big E, was here today. I couldn't tell you who Big E was, but now I saw him. It didn't necessarily look really big to me, but it was big enough to wallet me, so I backed off some. But yeah, he has a partnership with World Wrestling Entertainment, and they have talked about naming rights in the past and things like that. So uh, I think wherever he thinks the Big 12 can fit in, I'm with him. He seems to think that they can get a couple teams in that format, if not more, and you never know. It's like they don't have a media poll this year, and that's probably a good thing because they didn't do so well with those in the past. 2 years ago, West Virginia was picked dead last. They won 9 games and won a bowl game. Didn't do so hot last year, but last year was Arizona State picked dead last, and they make the college football playoff in the semifinals. So shows you what the media knows or doesn't know, and. Truthfully, who knows? With the way everyone flips the roster anymore, you're looking at new teams every year. There's all sorts of new players. Cincinnati has 39 players. I believe I heard Mike Gundy say they had like over 60 new players. You just don't know what you're getting into. And it's just a matter of, can you turn all those I's into we's and make yourself a team?
Yeah, it's tougher to make predictions than it's ever been for all the reasons you just cited, but especially in this conference, because yeah, I think that Cincinnati would surprise me, Houston and maybe a couple others, but nobody else would surprise me winning this conference. And then after Arizona State, after back-to-back 3-9s, maybe
Right.
nobody would surprise me. But,
Right,
but
I agree. I mean, in Arizona State right now some have them as the favorite after last year picking them dead last. So there's not a lot of consistency, but there's no official poll. I know there was a between some of the Big 12 writers, they asked to make some picks, and we sent those in. I think 247 had a poll, but anyone that says they know, they don't know.
yeah, I just trust a few programs out there. I used to trust Mike Gundy, but he couldn't win a game in the conference last year. They were about the worst team we've seen for quite some
Well, yeah.
time.
Well, go
Uh,
figure. And they, 2 years ago, Cincinnati goes down there and they had Ollie Gordon and he ran all over them. And then he certainly didn't have the year that they thought. They had a quarterback that was in year 7 or something like that, which is what we're running into anymore. You got quarterbacks 26, 27 years old. But yeah, I would not have guessed Oklahoma State to have not won a game. And having said that, I'd be shocked if they're probably going to be a lot better. They're
Yeah.
not going to do that again.
Kansas State's probably the safest pick to always be in contention because it seems like they always are.
I agree, and it's a really difficult place to play, and that's dating back to before I did this for a living. I was in radio for nearly 25 years. I was the sideline reporter for the University of Cincinnati. That's back when they let guys do it, because now they have pretty girls do it, and the girls get to stop and interview the coaches, where coaches would run past a guy like me. But Kansas State was a crazy place to play, and I'm sure it still is. Uh, so yeah, I would agree that that's a pretty solid pick.
Got Scott Springer on the line, UC Bearcats beat writer, Cincinnati.com, formerly Cincinnati Enquirer. Great wealth of experience here talking Big 12 with us. So let's get down to the Bearcats here. How do you think the transition to the Big 12 has gone? How do you think that most Bearcat fans like or don't like being in this conference?
Those who don't like it really haven't educated themselves, because if you want to say that the AAC was comparable to the Big 12, not even close. And I think they were maybe spoiled with all the great Luke Fickell years there, which came in the AAC. And then I'm here to tell you, even that year where they made the college football playoff and were one of the last four, that year they had game day at Cincinnati. They hosted Tulsa, not knocking Tulsa, but Tulsa darn near knocked them off, and that would have ruined the whole thing. They happened to have a good run that year, and then they made it to the Cotton Bowl, and then got exposed against Alabama because the games are won up front, and the SEC up front compared to the AAC up front, two different worlds. And I think what Scott Satterfield and the group saw entering the Big 12 was like, hey, we don't really look like some of these Big 12 teams. So the past two seasons have been focused on getting that caliber of player, that grade of offense, defensive lineman, and speed and all those things. I think this year, roster wise, it looks to be the best that they've had in some time. So if they're going to make a run, it's really got to be this year, because people are going to get anxious because with all the money involved. So, and the AD has even mentioned, in year three, it's kind of like in golf, in a golf tournament. On day three, you make the turn, and who's going to make the turn. And I think he's really anxious to see UC and Satterfield make the turn this year. So can't predict on how they'll do. I would suppose they'd be better. They certainly look better, but we haven't seen them play anyone. We'll see that on August 28th when they have to face Nebraska in Kansas City, and that should be an interesting game. And then after that, Cincinnati has 7 home games, and then the Big 12 schedule. So we'll see what happens there. They can make a statement come August 28th, but I would say for both UC and Nebraska, that game to their fans might seem like really, really important, but I don't think it's the end of the world one way or the other. If you win it or if you lose it, a lot of football to be played after that.
Well, let's stay right there then. Since you brought up the matchup against Nebraska on a Thursday night, that's a nice little showcase for a Cincinnati program here playing the big national game to open the season. And it's kind of strange. Maybe you can explain to us. This game was originally slated for Indianapolis, correct?
Well, originally it was part of a home and home series, and the Cincinnati was supposed to go to Nebraska during the COVID year, and that game was canceled. When the Big Ten initially canceled, the early portion of the season. So it turned into a money game where, okay, let's play it at Lucas Oil Stadium, and Cincinnati will make a buck or two on it. And then what happened was Arrowhead has a group of people who were marketing Arrowhead. And so they came in and said, hey, would you think of moving the game to Arrowhead Stadium? You keep it as your home game. And so the deal is they get 75% of the gate. So you're looking at what, 74,000 times 75%. And they paid the buyout at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. And Cincinnati gets to be the home team, even though there's going to be way more Nebraska fans there. So it basically was a money deal. In this day and age, with all the money that's needed to get players and get things done, it's a money deal. And plus, Cincinnati looked at it as, well, hey, we already have 7 other home games, so So why not do this? So is it a home game? Not really. Is it neutral? Not really, because Omaha is about 3 hours away and Cincinnati's maybe 10. But it's a money game. You're on national TV, 8 o'clock Central, 9 o'clock Eastern, and ESPN, and playing on a Thursday. So a lot of eyes on you. So good time to make an impression. We'll see what happens. Again, if they were to win it, I wouldn't be all crazy about it. If they lost it, I wouldn't lose it either. But obviously, it would behoove them to win the thing, and would certainly help the program.
Well, there's probably hardly a soul out there that does these game by game predictions to add them up and say, okay, so and so is going to finish 7-5, and they're going to finish 5-7 or whatever. That's picking
Yeah.
Cincinnati to win this game, but they're only a touchdown underdog according to Vegas.
Oh
That's
yeah.
a
It's
competitive game.
7 point underdog, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that would make sense. I mean, Nebraska's going to bring the crowd, and Nebraska won their bowl game last year, won the Pinstripe Bowl. And Matt Rule, I think in year three, if you go back to what he did at Temple, what he did at Baylor, in year three, he's made a decent stand with his teams. So if you're looking at that, I could see where you would side with Nebraska. And if I were to pick, I'd probably pick Nebraska. I just think the Cincinnati team is maybe a little better than people think. Not predicting them to win the game, but I'd be shocked if it were like a blowout of some form.
And if they do pull off a stunner or just have a good season, even after a loss, you start with Brendan Sorsby, obviously, the Indiana quarterback that transferred in. And Evan Pryor takes over at running back. I know that he got a lot of carries last year, but he's the number one guy. And Joe Royer is probably a tight end not a lot of people across the nation know about, who
But they
caught
will.
50 balls.
Yeah. Joe Royer's really, really good. He's likely your next NFL tight end from the University of Cincinnati. And you're looking at, obviously Travis Kelce, who plays at Arrowhead for a living. And Royer broke his single season record last year for tight ends with 50 catches. And so Royer's been a really good fit. It's a guy that got to come home from Ohio State. He had some issues up there with his mother passing away, and just was dealing with some things. But I think he found himself last year, and he's really good. I saw him as far back as in high school when he was catching all sorts of balls. So Royer's good. You mentioned Evan Pryor. Pryor's certainly going to get his carries. Tawee Walker is the guy they got out of Wisconsin, who looked really good in the spring, and it adds another wrinkle to that game. More of a power back, straight ahead guy, but and faster than people think. So the running game, I think, looks solid. The offensive line, they lost Luke Kander to the NFL. He's a free agent with Carolina Panthers, but they picked up Joe Cotton out of South Dakota, who apparently when he walked into Scott Satterfield's doorway took the whole thing up, and so they liked him a lot then, like 6'8", 325. So they got some replacements on the line. They had a good year in the portal on paper. Like again, I'm not promising you anything, but it just haven't seen the guys, seeing spring and seeing what everyone else has said about these guys. They certainly look like they have a better roster. So should they be better? Yes, they should.
We're going to try one more question, Scott, because we're starting to lose you. You're breaking up here, but we'll give it another go here because I wanted to hear about the defense with all the experience back at linebacker and, of course, Dante Corleone.
Yeah, a lot of experience at linebacker. Jack Dingle's a starter. They have a guy named Jake Goldie that they got from Central Arkansas last year that really tore it up, and he was a portal find. Jonathan Thompson, and another starter, and they've got a lot of fine young linebackers. Then up front, and this was a key last year, Dante Corleone started the season. He had a blood clot in his lung, and so was held out of practice. And so even when he finally got in the second game against Pitt, he wasn't quite himself and really wasn't himself most of the year. So he's back healthy. They had a couple other guys that would have started last year that were hurt early on. So they took some hits injury-wise up front on the defensive line. They seem to be better there. So the defense should be better. Again, you got some new defensive backs that came out of the portal. We'll see how they do. They appear to be better, but you made a coaching change last year. You moved on from your defensive backs coach and your special teams coach, same guy, and they tried to make improvements in those areas. So again, right now, from the spring, on paper, they look better. I'll know a little bit more on August 28th, and obviously, if you talk to me in September, I might have a whole different opinion on these guys. But it appears they've done better in the portal, but everyone else is active in the portal too, so it's anyone's guess.